I decided to take a break from my isolating job a few months ago. I was a freelance graphic designer, always glued to my laptop at home. I thought a solo hiking trip would help me unwind. I chose a remote national park, far away from the city's noise. I wasn't a total beginner, but I wouldn't say I was an expert either. The trail wound through tall pines, and a soft stream rushed nearby. It felt peaceful. But I've never stopped thinking about what happened there. I set up my camp on the first night. It was quiet, just me and the woods. On the second night, I noticed a flicker of firelight in the distance. I crawled into my tent and zipped it up. It felt cozy. But then I heard voices, hushed whispers fading into the night air. I sat up, listening. Unease crept in. When dawn broke, I jolted awake to sunlight streaming through the trees. It looked like a normal day, but something felt off. As I packed my things, strange symbols caught my eye. They were carved into the trunks of the trees around my campsite. I rubbed my eyes, thinking it was just my imagination. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was some kind of art? My heart raced as I packed up and hit the trail. As I hiked, something caught my eye. A figure stood among the trees. I squinted, trying to focus. He was staring right at me. My stomach dropped. I felt cold. I took a step closer, but he didn't move. My legs grew heavy. I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. Just like that, he vanished into thin air. I stood frozen, my mind racing. Was he real? I felt like I was losing it. That night, as the wind howled through the trees, I heard it again, whispers, soft and eerie, swirling around me. I couldn't make out the words, and it made my skin crawl. I pulled my sleeping bag closer, trying to block it out, but the whispers felt like they were all around me. Trapped. Alone in that dark forest. The next morning, I packed up my gear, still feeling the weight of those strange symbols and the silent figure. It felt wrong, like something was watching me from the shadows. I thought I should have left sooner. I hoped to just leave without thinking too much. There was something wrong in that place that I turned to take one last look at the trail. In that moment, I thought I saw something move, but when I blinked, it was gone. I jumped in my car, my heart racing with each breath. I wished I had never gone there. Not all encounters are meant to be understood. As I drove away, a sharp knock sounded on my window. I gasped and turned. No one was there. My breath caught in my throat as I felt a chill crawl up my spine. A cold whisper wrapped around me, as if something still lingered just outside the reach of my understanding. I didn't know what it was. I just wanted to forget. I couldn't shake the odd feeling well after I left the park. Days later, I found myself sitting in my small apartment, staring blankly at my laptop screen. The design projects I usually loved felt hollow. Instead, my mind was tangled in the memories of that trip, whispers, symbols, the mysterious figure. I tried to push it all down, to move on, but it kept creeping back. One evening, I decided to take a walk. I thought some fresh air would clear my head. As I strolled through my neighborhood, I couldn't shake the sensation that someone was following me. I glanced over my shoulder, but the street was empty. Just trees lining the sidewalk under a dim streetlight. I picked up my pace, heart pounding. When I returned home, my phone buzzed. It was an email notification. It was from a hiking forum I joined a while back, one I barely remembered. I figured it was spam, but something caught my eye. The subject line read, "Unusual Encounters in Pineview National Park." My fingers hesitated over the screen. Should I even open it? My gut twisted, reminding me of the forest, but curiosity got the better of me. As I read through the messages, my unease grew. Multiple people had reported similar experiences, strange symbols carved into trees, voices in the night, and sightings of mysterious figures. I felt a chill creep up my spine. It was like I wasn't mad after all, others shared the same experiences. Eventually, one comment stood out. It mentioned an area of the park, a clearing some called the Whispering Pines. It seemed a little too coincidental. My heart raced as I realized that this was where I had camped. The post said the area had a long history of disappearances. People would come to hike and never return. I shut my laptop, breathless and panicked. Later, lying in bed, sleep wouldn't come. The whispers haunted me, curling around my thoughts. I wondered if I'd been drawn to something sinister. Was the figure I saw connected to the disappearances? Then the soft sound broke the silence, a faint whispering, like the wind through the pines. I sat up in bed, straining to hear. "Help us." The voice was distinct, clear. My heart raced. Was it a trick of my mind? I told myself it had to be. But what if it wasn't? My phone rang, breaking the tension. I snatched it up. It was the hiking forum's administrator. "Hello?" I answered, trying to mask my panic. "Hey, I wanted to follow up on your recent comments and share more information," a cautious voice said. Before I could respond, the line went dead. My heart sank, that S when I saw it, faint but clear. Something moved in the corner of my room. I turned, eyes wide. The shadows danced as if alive, creeping closer. My blood ran cold. There was no denying it anymore. Whatever I had brought back with me from that trip was still here, and it wanted something. I could hardly breathe. The shadows shifted again, and they were closer now, almost blending into the darkness of my room. I backed away, clutching my phone tight, a sensation creeping up from my feet to my chest. I had to get out, but where could I go? The fear of being alone was worse than whatever this was. I blinked, desperate to clear my mind. I remembered the hiking forum and the details people had shared about those who had vanished. Maybe they had some kind of insight. I forced myself to sit back down at my computer, hands trembling over the keys. My heart pounded as I searched for new threads, anything that could give away which direction I should take. A thread caught my eye, titled "Seeking the Lost, Friends and Family." It detailed the accounts of people trying to find loved ones who went missing in the park. It felt heavy, like a weight on my chest. I scanned through the comments until I spotted a name, Mark Dwyer. He had posted just a day ago, saying he was planning on returning to Pineview. A wave of anger hit me. How could he go back? Did he not understand what lurked there? I couldn't help but feel a pull to reach out. Maybe I could convince him not to go back. I click reply and began typing, then a loud crash made me jump. My breath hitched. What was that? I hesitated, debating whether to investigate or stay put. My instincts told me to run and hide, but I fought against the urge. Taking a deep breath, I walked cautiously toward the source of the noise, my footsteps muffled against the carpet. The hallway was dark, and the shadows seemed to inch closer with each step. I turned on a light, but that only intensified my fear. I could see the living room door slightly ajar. There it was again, the whisper. "Help us." It felt like a call, drawing me in. Something far more intense than before. I grabbed a flashlight and pushed the door open. The living room was a mess. Papers and books scattered across the floor. My couch had been flipped over. My pulse quickened as my eyes darted around the room. I didn't see anyone, but I could feel them, lurking in the silence. "Is anyone here?" I shouted, voice trembling. The quiet that followed answered my question. But it felt wrong. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. A text popped up. It was Mark. "Need to talk ASAP. You won't believe what I found out about the Whispering Pines." My heart raced. I glanced back toward the dark hallway. Should I respond or keep searching my apartment? I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening was all connected. I needed answers, but was I ready for what might come next? With a flicker of courage, I plopped down on the couch, still overturned, and texted back, "What did you find?" Then everything went dark. I blinked, dazed, trying to gather my thoughts in the darkness. The lights hadn't just flickered, they had cut out completely. My senses tightened around me. I strained to hear anything, but the house was wrapped in an unsettling silence. I was alone. "Mark," I whispered, as if saying his name would bring back the light. I fumbled for my phone, the screen a small beacon in the void. I tried to respond, but my heart dropped as I realized I had no signal. Panic surged through me, and I stood, gripping the edge of the couch for support. Then, without warning, the whisper returned, creeping into my mind. "Help us." The sound felt almost like a breath on my neck. Who was that? I shivered, feeling chills tingle up my spine. The flashlight. I quickly switched it on, its beam slicing through the darkness. I aimed it first toward the front door, but nothing seemed out of place. I took a deep breath, and then directed the light toward the hallway. The shadows danced unnervingly on the wall. I stepped cautiously toward the kitchen. As I entered, the beam caught something on the floor, a glossy brochure. My heart thumped loudly in my chest. I picked it up and saw the familiar logo of Pineview Park emblazoned on the front. Confusion surged. Why was this here? I hadn't been there since my last hike, and it had been months. Something felt off. I flipped the brochure open, and my stomach dropped. As I began to read, those words seemed to dig into me. "Join us in solving the mystery of the vanished. We need brave souls to uncover the truth." My phone buzzed again, and I leapt, wishing it would provide some kind of comfort. But it was another text from Mark. "I know where they went. They're still there." I felt the room spin, my grip tightening on the brochure. What did that mean? Who was still there? I needed to think, to understand, but the panic was mounting. Then, I heard a soft rustling from the living room. My heart pounded louder in my ears. I took a step back toward the kitchen, but the noise grew louder, more hurried, as if something was moving closer. I steadied myself, keeping the flashlight aimed. I could feel my breath quickening, and I realized I had to confront whatever was there. I stepped back into the living room, light shaking in my hand. That's when I saw it, a shadow darting past the edge of the light, vanishing into the other room. "Who's there?" I yelled, more forcefully than I felt. My voice echoed eerily back to me, the silence pressing in. There was no answer, just the whisper repeating, "Help us." Standing there, trembling, I knew I had to make a choice. Did I flee? Or did I follow it? The fear rooted me to the spot as questions thrummed in my mind. I had to know what was happening, and I had to get answers from Mark. But first, I had to survive the night. I took a step forward, drawn by curiosity and dread, unaware of what awaited me next. The moment I hesitated, that whisper returned, slithering through the air. "Help us." I felt it around me like a frigid breeze, and I steadied my breath. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. I had to confront whatever was lurking in the shadows. That I tilted the flashlight towards the hallway, every sound seeming amplified in the silence. My gut twisted as I stepped cautiously forward, the faintest creaking beneath my feet echoing like a warning in the dark. It wasn't just an empty house anymore, it felt haunted, like it was holding its breath. Then, I noticed it again, a slight movement at the edge of the beam, just out of reach. I blinked hard, trying to focus. It was as if something was teasing me, taunting my fear. "Mark?" I called out again, but my voice cracked, betraying my uncertainty. In response, I swore I heard a soft giggle. It sent chills down my spine. The laughter bounced mockingly off the walls, and it faded quickly into the stillness. My heart raced. I wanted to flee, but something held me back. I had to figure this out. That I pressed the light further along the hallway. That's when I saw it, a door I never remembered being there. It was slightly ajar, and the air around it seemed charged, almost electric. The whisper now intensified, thrumming like a heartbeat. "Help us." I approached slowly, almost unwillingly. The handle felt cold beneath my fingers, and doubt surged through me. What had Mark meant? What was still there? Should I call for him again? But I could feel that the door was beckoning me, an invitation or a warning. I nudged it open, and the flashlight beam pierced into a small room. The walls were plastered with posters, each one a jumble of lost faces. Their eyes stared back at me, hollow and desperate. I shuddered, stepping inside. Amidst the chaos of paper, I caught sight of something unusual. There was a notebook, its cover worn, sitting atop a tattered map of Pineview Park. That I picked it up and flipped it open. My breath caught in my throat. It was filled with frantic scrawl names, dates, and handwritten notes. "They see you," one entry read. "Watch for the shadows." Another warned, "The truth is in the trees." My fingers trembled as I traced over the letters. Suddenly, the room grew colder, a shiver creeping up my spine. The door slammed shut behind me, cutting off my escape. Panic surged again, and I rushed for it, yanking the handle, but it wouldn't budge. I turned back to find everything had shifted. The faces from the posters seemed to morph, their eyes alive, watching me. Then, I heard it again, the laughter, now louder, more sinister. I felt a rush of dread. Whoever or whatever was behind me, it was close. My heart raced, and my instincts screamed at me to hide. I scanned the room, but there was nowhere to go. I scrambled for the window, the only way out. My fingers fumbled as I pushed against the frame. And at that moment, from the shadows behind me, I felt a presence. Something was there, lurking just beyond my sight. I had only the light and my will to escape. But as I squeezed through the window, I knew I was stepping into something much bigger than I anticipated, something that wouldn't let go even if I managed to escape this time. I had to know what lay ahead. The cool night air hit my face as I tumbled out of the window. I landed on the grass with a thud, my heart pounding in my ears. I took a moment to catch my breath, glancing back at the house I had just escaped. The door remained firmly shut, but I could still feel its weight behind me, closing in. I stumbled to my feet, my flashlight flickering as I turned it toward the woods behind the house. The trees loomed tall and dark, their branches twisting like fingers reaching for me. I hesitated. What had I just escaped? There was no time to dwell on it now. I had to find Mark and get out of here. With every step, the shadows seemed to pull at me, whispering secrets just out of earshot. I followed a narrow path, littered with leaves and twigs, trying to remember which way I'd come before. The laughter still echoed in my mind, an unnerving memory that made my skin crawl. As I moved deeper into the forest, I spotted something lying ahead on the ground, a small backpack. I recognized it immediately. It was Mark's. I rushed over, my stomach twisting with dread. Had he really been out here alone? Did he leave this behind in a hurry? I unzipped the bag and rifled through its contents. There were snacks, a water bottle, and his camera. I felt a mixture of relief and panic. This meant he had been here. I glanced around, half expecting to see him emerge from the trees. "Mark!" I called out, my voice wavering in the still night. Silence answered me, but then I heard a rustling in the bushes off to my right. My heart dropped. "Mark?" I took a cautious step forward, squinting into the dark. A figure shifted slightly, partially hidden among the underbrush. I felt a wave of hope, but it was quickly drowned by uncertainty. "Help!" It was barely a whisper, but I knew I had heard it. I shone the flashlight in that direction, pulse racing as the beam settled on nothing. I could see the slack branches swaying slightly, but no figure stood there. I strained my ears for another sound, but only the rustling leaves returned my call. Was it my fear playing tricks on me, or was someone genuinely in need of help? That's when I noticed something unusual about the ground. Footprints. They weren't just leading away from the backpack, they appeared to dance erratically around me, almost spiraling back towards the house. Panic bubbled within me. It wasn't just Mark I had to find, there were others here too, lost in the woods, just like those from the posters. I backed away slowly, realizing I didn't want to be part of whatever was lurking. But as I turned to leave, the laughter returned, echoing like a taunt through the trees. I sprinted away from the backpack, adrenaline pushing me forward. But the deeper I ran into the forest, the more I started to doubt my path. The trees seemed to close in, whispering a warning of their own. And then everything went black. The flashlight flickered and died just as I stumbled into a clearing. I was alone now in the dark, but I knew I wasn't truly alone. Something was watching me. I had to figure out what was happening, but I felt the pull of fear, heavy like a shroud, threatening to envelop me. I was in too deep now, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. My eyes adjusted to the darkness of the clearing, but nothing helped chase away the feeling of being watched. The air felt charged, as if the trees themselves could feel my pulse thrumming in my chest. I took a deep breath and forced myself to move. There had to be a way out of this nightmare. I scanned the perimeter of the clearing, looking for any hint of a trail. But the shadows swallowed any sense of direction. Just then, a faint glimmer caught my eye. It was small and flickering, like a candlelight in the distance. I knew I shouldn't go toward it. It felt wrong, but I was desperate for something familiar. So I took a step forward, then another, my feet crunching on the twigs like warning bells. As I approached, the glimmer revealed itself a lantern, partially buried in the underbrush. I picked it up, brushing away dirt and leaves. It was cold but in working condition. I took a breath and, with fingers trembling, lit it. The small flame flickered to life, illuminating just enough of the clearing to cast long shadows. When I saw it, a figure standing at the edge of the trees, watching me. My heart dropped. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the lantern. "Who's there?" I shouted, panic igniting in my throat. The figure didn't move. It was cloaked in darkness, so I couldn't make out any features. My mind raced. Was it Mark? Or someone else? I took a step forward, squinting to see better. "Mark? Is that you?" The figure stepped into the light for just a moment. It wasn't Mark. It was a girl, her face pale, eyes wide and unblinking. My stomach twisted. She looked lost, but something about her seemed wrong. Her mouth curved into a sharp smile, unsettling in its stillness. "Why are you smiling?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Help," she whispered, her tone a haunting echo of what I had heard earlier. Before I could respond, she turned abruptly, darting back into the trees. My instincts screamed at me not to follow, but I couldn't just stand there. I didn't want to, but I stepped into the forest, spurred on by a mix of concern and fear. I chased after her, the glow from the lantern barely keeping the darkness at bay. "Wait! Where are you going?" I called, but all I heard was the rustling of branches and leaves underfoot. She moved quickly, effortlessly weaving through the dense forest. Then, out of nowhere, she stopped. I caught up just in time to see her turn and point. "There!" she shouted, her voice now sharp and frantic. I followed her gaze and froze. There it was, just a few yards away, a wooden structure surrounded by more trees. It looked like an old shack, half reclined with age, the door creaking on its hinges. I could see framed photographs hanging crookedly on the walls, barely illuminated by the lantern's glow. "Look closer," she urged, stepping back into the shadows. As much as I wanted to run, I found myself drawn to the shack. I approached it cautiously, every instinct flaring with warning. When I reached the door, I felt an inexplicable urge to step inside, though a voice at the back of my mind screamed not to. I pushed the door open, and it creaked ominously. The moment I stepped through, the air turned cold. I could see dusty furniture and remnants of someone's life, long abandoned. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. On the wall directly in front of me hung a collection of photographs, faces I recognized. The posters in town had shown these very people, all reported missing. Mark's face was among them, eyes wide and full of fear. I stumbled back, feeling the weight of reality crash around me. I was not just looking for Mark, I had stepped into something much darker. I turned to leave, wishing I hadn't come at all. But the moment I turned around, the girl was gone, lost into the shadows. It wasn't over. I needed to find Mark before it was too late. But could I do it alone? The forest was alive around me, hiding secrets I was not prepared to uncover. I took a deep breath, fighting against the panic closing in around me. The photographs burned into my mind as I stepped back from the wall, my heart racing. The shack felt like it was closing in, the walls filled with whispers of lost souls. I had to get out. I turned and rushed to the door, but a sudden chill swept through the air, freezing my feet in place. The lantern flickered, its flame wavering as if responding to a presence I couldn't see. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the girl, but all I saw was darkness. The shadows twisted and morphed, making it hard to distinguish where one ended and another began. Then, I heard a soft, low laughter, echoing from somewhere deep in the woods behind the shack. It was a sound that sent icy fingers down my spine. My instinct screamed at me to run, but I found myself rooted to the spot, listening. The laughter was familiar, taunting, like a cruel reminder of the fun I used to have with Mark before everything went wrong. "Mark?" I whispered, my voice barely escaping my lips. There was no response. Only silence. In a burst of courage, I pushed the door open again and stepped outside, the night air biting at my skin. The lantern's glow revealed tree branches swaying like skeletal arms reaching out for me. I needed to move, to find Mark, but as I turned, something caught my eye. A figure appeared between the trees, almost hidden. My breath hitched as I recognized the silhouette. "Mark!" I shouted, my feet moving before my brain could catch up. But when he stepped forward, my heart sank. It was not Mark. The person looked similar, tall, dark hair, but his face was twisted in a grimace, eyes hollow and sunken. "Help me," he croaked, his voice a warped echo of the girl's. But there was no warmth, no hope in his tone. Just despair. "What do you want?" I demanded, stepping back. "Where is Mark?" Instead of answering, he lunged forward. I whirled around and ran, adrenaline pumping through my veins. I didn't know if he was chasing me or if I was just imagining it. Darkness swallowed me, and the trees seemed to close in tighter. The forest was a maze, branches clawing at my clothes as I dodged and weaved. I stumbled into a clearing again, breathless and shaken. The lantern light barely penetrated the gloom, but I noticed something on the ground, a stone carved with strange symbols. Curiosity fought against fear. I bent closer to examine it. The symbols felt familiar, but my mind raced to place them. Were they warnings? Protection sigils? I dug my fingers into the earth beside it, feeling an electric tension build. Suddenly, the clearing felt alive, pulsing with energy. And then I heard the girl's voice again, this time clearer. "Find me." It was a command. I looked back toward the trees just as the laughter erupted again, shrill and echoing. I had to make a choice. Stay here and risk whatever dark force loomed, or plunge deeper into the forest, following the girl's voice. With my heart pounding in my ears, I filled my lungs with air and sprinted toward the sound, hoping it would lead me to Mark. The darkness whispered around me, urging me deeper into the unknown. I would find him or die trying. The trees stood like silent sentinels as I plunged deeper into the woods. Each step felt heavier, my legs straining against exhaustion, but I pushed on. The girl's voice echoed in my mind, a haunting melody that drew me like a moth to a flame. "Find me." The laughter still danced around me, taunting, as if a hidden audience reveled in my fear. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the twisted figure again, but the darkness remained still. Every rustle of leaves and crack of twigs amplified my paranoia. I stumbled forward, desperate to reach that voice, hoping it would lead to Mark. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my ankle. I cried out and fell to the ground, cradling my foot. I looked down to see a frayed vine wrapped around my ankle, as if the forest itself was trying to hold me back. With a quick yank, I freed myself but lost precious seconds in the process. I forced myself back to my feet and continued, my breath becoming ragged. The sound of rushing water reached my ears, and I realized I was close to something, a creek, perhaps. I needed a way to orient myself, to find my bearings. As I approached the bank of the stream, I noticed something strange, a figure on the opposite side. It was another girl, with hair flowing like waves. She stood calmly, watching me with an unsettling smile. "You're almost there," she called, her voice melodic yet chilling. "Follow the water. He's waiting." I hesitated. The clarity in her voice seemed genuine, yet something in her gaze felt wrong. "Who are you?" I shouted. "Someone who knows where he is," she answered softly. I fought the urge to cross to her, the caution in my gut a warning. "What do you want from me?" Her smile widened. "Just your trust." The laughter echoed again, louder this time, as if the forest was mocking my every move. I took a step back, my heart racing. "Where's Mark?" I pressed, desperate for answers, but then, she laughed, a high-pitched peal that chilled my spine. "Find him." With that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. "Wait!" I yelled, but she was gone. Panic surged. The twisted figure from earlier had to be linked to this. Were they part of the same nightmare? I felt the panic pooling in my stomach and decided against the stream, choosing instead to head back toward the direction I had originally come from, hoping to retrace my steps. Just as I turned, a gust of wind knocked the lantern from my grip, extinguishing the light. Darkness enveloped me. I fumbled in a blind panic, trying to find my way, but every sound amplified, every crack and rustle making my heart race. The laughter had become a sinister chorus, echoing from all directions, and then, out of the darkness, came a whisper soft and chilling. "You've come so far now, it's time to choose." My pulse quickened. I couldn't hold my breath any longer. I pulled on instinct, ducking low as a group of shadowy figures appeared in the thin moonlight, surrounding me. I froze, realizing I wasn't alone. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. But the laughter returned, and all I could think was, I needed to escape. Then everything went black. When I finally opened my eyes, the icy grip of fear had loosened just enough for me to catch my breath. I blinked against the blinding light, disoriented. I was no longer in the forest, I lay in a clearing, the sunlight spilling all around me like a warm embrace. Confused, I got to my feet, brushing dirt off my clothes. The memories flooded back, shadows, laughter, whispers that twisted my mind. I felt the weight of everything that had happened, but there were no signs of the figures I had encountered. No shadows danced around me. I was alone, and the atmosphere was deceptively calm. I was at the edge of a small pond, the water crystal clear and still. I peered into its depths, searching for any reflection of what had transpired. Instead, the surface echoed back the image of a hiker's camp neatly set up behind me. Mark's backpack sat innocently by the fire pit, just as I'd seen it before the chaos. It felt surreal, as though I had been transported to another world. "Mark!" I called out, fear mingling with hope. There was no response. The stillness pressed in around me. Had he made it out? Deep down, I worried he was still in the forest, swallowed by whatever dark force haunted it. I searched the campsite meticulously, but there were no signs of life, just remnants of what felt like a dream. I kicked at the dirt in frustration, wishing I could erase the fear embedded in my mind. That's when I noticed it, lying forgotten by the fire pit, a small stone carved with familiar symbols. I picked it up, my heart racing. A fleeting memory flickered, just one of the warnings I'd seen in the shack. I had brushed aside its significance in the haze of panic, but now it was unmistakable. Whatever this was, it bound together the cluster of accounts I had read online, the stories of people vanishing without a trace. Then, I heard it again, the whisper, but this time it wasn't just a voice, it echoed like a chorus of the forest itself. "Help us." It tugged at my mind, drawing me back towards the trees that stood like towering giants, formerly my predators. I turned, my heart pounding as I did a slow, deliberate scan of the area. With no one in sight, I felt a cloak of dread settle over my shoulders again. "What do you want from us?" I shouted into the silence, my anxiety bubbling over. For a moment, the world held its breath, the pond reflecting my own fear, a transient, flickering flash of something just beneath the surface. And then, ripples began to distort the image, a figure emerging. It was a girl, the same one who had led me, the one who had disappeared into shadows. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, but this time, no smile graced her lips. "Help us," she croaked again. She pointed toward the forest, and my heart sank. The weight of her gaze held an urgency I had never felt before. With a heavy sigh, I didn't hesitate for long. I slid the stone into my pocket, determined to confront whatever lay in those woods once more. I didn't care if it was a trap. I had come this far, I had to understand what it all meant. But as I entered the shady embrace of the trees, the clarity that had accompanied me at the clearing dissipated. The laughter rose in the distance, echoing again, a thrumming reminder of what was at stake. "Mark!" I screamed into the depths, despair mingling with determination. I was no longer sure what awaited me. The darkness could swallow me whole or lead me to answers. The only thing I knew for certain was that the whispers wouldn't relent and the shadows wouldn't fade. As I forged deeper into the heart of the forest, the questions only multiplied. "Where are you, Mark?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Are you still there?" The woods responded with an unsettling silence, leaving my thoughts swirling with unanswered fears, a haunting blend of the supernatural and the real. Would I uncover the truth? Or would I too become just another whisper in the trees? I pressed on, heart pounding, stepping deeper into the unknown.